What happens when luxury design meets social equity? And how can community led planning transform overlooked neighborhoods into resilient, thriving places? Today's guest believes the answer begins with listening, really listening to the people who will live, work, and dream in the spaces we build. Hey, everybody, I'm Stephen Schauer, and this is Stories Sustain Us, where we bring you personal stories that reveal the very heart of sustainability and inspire us all to take action. In today's episode, we journey from the historic streets of Cairo to underserved neighborhoods in Texas with architect, planner, and educator Dr. Azza Kamal. From contributing to award-winning developments like Gouna on Egypt's Red Sea coast to designing mental health facilities and affordable housing in the U.S., Dr. Kamal's career is a powerful reflection of how architecture and urban planning can and must serve the greater good. We'll explore why LEED certification is more than a status symbol, how qualitative research is essential in inclusive design, and how Dr. Kamal's work with colonias in Texas helps shine a light on communities often left out of the planning process. You'll also hear about her Fulbright experience in Berlin, her commitment to teaching the next generation of urban leaders, and why she believes hope for a sustainable future lies in stepping out of our comfort zones together. Dr. Azza Kamal is an associate teaching professor at the University of Colorado Boulder, specializing in sustainable planning, affordable housing policy, and community resilience. She brings over 25 years of experience in architecture and urban planning across Egypt, Germany, and the United States. Her research leverages geospatial modeling to close policy gaps, and she's been instrumental in projects from San Antonio's World Heritage Site documentation to climate adaptation tools for Berlin churches. She's a respected educator, a passionate community advocate, and a leading voice for heritage preservation, urban equity, and environmental justice. This conversation will challenge you to think differently about the built environment and inspire you to see design as a tool for change. So let's get started right here in Stories Sustain Us, where we are inspiring action through the power of storytelling. Good morning, Dr. Kamal. How are you doing? Azza, good to finally get you on camera and get you in the recording studio here. I'm so eager to speak with you. I appreciate you taking time to join me on Stories Sustain Us.
Likewise, pleasure to be with you, Stephen. Good morning.
So I kind of start every show. People know by now I'm in Seattle, but where are you coming from? Where are you sitting at today?
I'm in between Denver and Boulder, so in a city called Broomfield, closer to Boulder, but it's part of the Denver metro area.
So. Yeah, that's a pretty area. I like that Rocky Mountain area. So, well, I also want to take a brief moment to thank our mutual friend Karen Bishop for connecting us, and I'm really eager to hear your story. We were very close to each other for a long period of time in San Antonio, and we just never crossed paths. So it's nice to finally to get to know you here. So, tell me a bit about your story before we get into some of the long list of professional accomplishments and projects that I want to dive into. Tell me a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up, and what was life like for you as a kid growing up?
Well, thank you very much for having me and having the opportunity to share a little bit about my childhood. And thanks to Karen too, because Karen is a great friend. I know her for more than 10 years since my time in San Antonio. I grew up in Cairo, Cairo in Egypt, and I grew up in downtown Cairo in Egypt, like the middle of the hustle of all traffic, population growth, and all active life. And I went to a typical public schools. It's a women's school. It's actually the oldest female high school, and it was at the forefront of protesting in early 20th century. So female have like a role in the civic community and civic protesting, and was a great school. Love my teachers, and has great buildings too. I think when you try to connect the dots later on, you find out like the historic buildings and the structure and design of the school may have inspired me to go and pursue the architecture, among too many other reasons. But it was like really impactful because I still recollect about the buildings where I used to attend for 3 years. High schools in Egypt at 3 years is not like 4 years like in the
Yeah.
US.
Yeah.
But it was a great experience. And my neighborhood was like kind of like middle income mixed use. Most of the communities and neighborhoods are typically by default mixed use. The transformation to suburban single family started late in the 21st century.
Yeah.
But typical neighborhoods are mixed income, mixed use, close to transportation. So I started drive at the age of 19, but I always took transportation. I went to my school was like with walking distance, like 15, 17 minutes walk from my home. And I my college was also Cairo University, where I attended engineering school, architecture department in engineering school. Was like 30 minutes walk from my home as well. So relatively, you could walk too as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. And see the seeds of architecture and urban planning taking root in your early life with even with the terminology you're using about, mixed use and mixed income, all these, urban planning type of terms. So yeah, that was, I can
Yeah,
definitely see that
but
that
also
was your childhood growing up. Yeah.
yeah, the irony is like the Cairo University is like located in a Giza city. The Giza city is part of the Cairo metropolitan area. So it's called Cairo University, but it's located in a different city that's only connected across the river. So they are basically just like one metro area, but it still hold the name
Yeah.
of Cairo, not the Giza.
Yeah.
So
Better marketing.
it's very interesting. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Well, so I know, I'm going to do this episode just slightly differently than maybe some of the others where I dive deeper into past, because you have such an incredible work history. And do we want to, since we're already in your story in the Cairo area, do we want to jump into some of the work that you've done in Cairo, and there's a master plan community that I know that you worked on that won a significant recognition from the United Nations. And can you tell us a little bit about, how your early career and some of the work that you were doing that really started you on this incredible path that you've been on, where you've touched all of these different types of fascinating projects that we'll spend some time chatting about. So is that a good time to transition
Absolutely.
to Cairo and the work that you're doing there, or is there anything else that we want to dive into with your childhood? I want to make sure we don't miss anything
I think
important.
No, I think it's just like I chose architecture because my uncle, one of my favorite uncles was an architect, and
That's important.
at the age of 8, 9, I decided to become an architect, and that was it.
Yeah.
Then
What's his name?
as I grew, his name is Yusri. He passed away 3 years ago.
I'm sorry.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. But so he was an architect and planner too, which is what I do, crossing the bridges between the disciplines. But I also, as I studied in high school, studied German as a third language, or a second language. We studied Arabic, and English was the first foreign language, and then a second foreign language by default in public schools. So my study was in German. So, and I also was debating between studying German for college or going for my long term dream. And
Yeah.
I decided to challenge the engineers and the family and just to pursue engineering school. And but I was very fortunate when I graduated from architecture department with two great opportunities to work. And one of the great ones was to work with my former professor, who graduated with health design focused career from University of Toronto, and she was my professor in Cairo University, and I worked with her close to 4 years, and she was like really a role model for what women leadership and in the industry specifically at the time was like. Then I switched to another firm that worked with development across the country and abroad also. And this is where I got a chance to work in Gouna, a development or master plan development. It's a town that's mixed use and even mixed income, and has the some residences and secondary dwelling and or second homes and first homes, also people who live there permanently, but also have resorts, and it has school. It has a campus shut down recently, but it has a campus from Technical University of Berlin. So I had some connections also there. And I got a chance to visit for the very first time this past December. So I designed this project in collaboration with the developer of El Gouna, which is a company also known in the regions called Orascom. And it was like really transformational experience to work with a mega developer. And eventually, this is actually a project that has multiple foreign architects also working on. So Michael Graves is like an American known architect. He has one of the hotels run by, I believe, Sheraton is there. So I got a chance to visit his work also this past December and visit my work as well. So it was like really great to have, like, something with the masterpieces of other architects, and some Italian architects also have their projects over there. So it's a mega multi-development project and still going on. So there are some development happening there too.
And this is, if I remember reading a little bit about it before this interview, it's on the coast of the Red Sea. Is that correct? Did I get that right? Yeah.
Yes, it's northern. It's like an hour drive, less than an hour drive from the city of Hurghada on the Red Sea, and it's very close to airport there. So people even sometimes they come for just like a vacation time. So it's known to be a vacation, but there are people actually who live there. So it's a big employment center as well. So I would see it as a development that earned a reputation over the time, because it has also recognition for its green kind of management. And this is what the recent, it's not too recent, it's 2014 kind of recognition from the UN environmental program. So my project was part of the overall kind of recognition.
And that was, I want to make sure we give full credit. That was the environmental program. That was the Global Human Settlements program. Can you tell a little bit about that? Sounds intriguing. What was that award really looking for in recognition? How was it singling out this master plan development for this recognition as what a global human settlement should be? I mean, that's I think what the UN was pointing out, that this was done so well, we should recognize it as this is what we should be doing as humans.
Yeah, so I'm not into the details of the certification, but because it's a management, is not in the design field, like my area in the lead kind of certification. But it looks at how resources are being managed across the community, and recycling is a major part, and eco-friendly products and water kind of conservation. So it's a much more like a broader certification for the management of specific business,
touching on different aspects of sustainability, making sure that we're
absolutely
we're future generations can have something to look forward to as well. Absolutely perfect. In your time frame, so the award was presented by the UN in 2014. What was your window of time working on that project in your timeline?
I worked early in the century, so the project again is still also evolving. So when I visited, there are still residences being built, and there are different phases because it's a huge land. So it's owned by and run by Orascom, and the owner of Orascom. It's a big family that have multiple development in the region, not only I believe also in Europe. So they have multiple investments in the region. So the recognition happened for that phase up until the 2014. I don't know if they are pursuing a different certification moving forward, but this is something actually I'm looking up to also, like how to certify, because now even post 2014 there are much more site certification and community
Sure.
certification that could be part of LEED. So that was something I was very interested in to connect with the management, and to start seeing how that could possibly happen.
Yeah. And I've heard you mention a few times now, and just for the audience members who may not be fully up to speed, you've mentioned LEED on a few different parts of your story. Can you explain what that is for the audience, just so even if they might have heard that term before and maybe not fully understand the depth of it, because again, in the realm of sustainability and trying to do things in a better way, that's one of the important aspects of that. So can you explain what that is and how it impacts what you do for the different projects that you work on around the world?
Sure. LEED is the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. So a lot of people who work in sustainability are very familiar. It's the popular one, but it's not the only one.
Mm-hmm.
Popular because it's been there longer. It's been implemented in different parts of the world, in and outside the North American system, and give certification to buildings, communities, neighborhoods, and now cities, in building in different phases, whether existing or new construction, neighborhood as a project plan or existing projects, or completed design projects, and it also give accreditation to professionals. So I'm in that side also of being accredited in the category for neighborhood development, which is the urban skill I teach and conduct my research. And so I also teach LEED for my students in different programs, when I was in Florida and now in Colorado as well. So it's very popular, and I encourage them to pursue the accreditation. First step is to be Green Associate. So I help them take the exam as well.
Perfect.
So there are actually different communities that already exist before LEED that they did, kind of like some of the communities I visited in Germany as part of my work. They run the certification kind of credit score, and they got like very high credit too. So we know that there are already communities that designed with sustainability and resiliency in mind that were not necessarily, and to date they're not necessarily LEED certified,
Sure.
but they perform very, very high. So it is a tool to help communities to meet up conscious design that's eco-friendly, that's not harmful, that's also socially respectful to the residents.
Yeah. And could you give an example of what that, going from that definition of what it is, could you give like a concrete example for someone of, if you do this in a building or if you do this in a neighborhood, that will get you, scoring you points towards getting your LEED recognition? Is there something that you can help people make that connection between the concept of designing sustainably and with resilience in mind versus what that means on the ground in an actual project?
Yeah, sure. So there are some credit goes for water conservation and water fixtures that we use to save water, and not everything that fits all regions, because every region perform differently based
Sure.
on the climate zone. Of course, renewable energy is a must, but also you cannot capture solar in areas that we got like most of the day, like most of the time is in the overcast time. So it depends, and there are areas where we cannot capture water. In California, for example, we have a lot of restrictions. Here in Colorado, because we are in a dry climate.
Yeah.
So it depends on what the region kind of dictate and the policy dictates. There are a lot of precautions and requirements during construction itself, so we can protect the sites so it doesn't harm the nearby areas. Equipments need to be covered and so forth. There are design features that we need, an orientation feature that we need to do. There's a lot of facade related elements, fenestration or glazing elements, and industry has picked up very quickly that even the new release of the LEED certification that was just released on Monday of this week, believed 25th of April, that was something that that came up to address decarbonization and how to eliminate, to focus on resiliency too. So it's not just sustainability. So how to respond to shocks and stresses that happen to our cities and communities.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for helping describe that for folks who may not be fully up to speed on some of these terms and acronyms. So I appreciate that. So back to your journey and your career path. We left off, and you were working in Cairo on this incredible master plan development. I know there's times that I want to get to San Antonio. I know there's work that you've done in Germany. Where do we go next from your time in Cairo?
In Cairo, I did work. My first job was to work on health care facilities, actually.
Okay.
It was like a very wonderful 4 years. And I remember one of the great experiences was to help designing but also retrofitting old hospitals. And my task ranged from just helping like the team, because I was just like fresh graduate to the beginning, and then you would be very surprised, like in 2 years I was able to do like a master plan and design of and learn a lot about designing for psychiatric illness. And at the time, that was in mid 1990s, where there was no Google search, like where you know what the needs are.
I remember those days.
And we would get like books and publications like periodicals about psychiatric illness, and we listened to different interviews for locally kind of experts, locally kind of like run facilities, and what goes wrong. And there was a lot that went wrong in existing facilities.
Sure.
And there was not that many. So we listened to interviews, and thanks to, again, the credit goes to my professor, who was like really the expert in healthcare facilities. She put us also in touch with local practitioners that pioneers in the field, like people who you barely, like you need to pay them to sit in an interview with. And we managed to have them in the office and talk to them and talk notes. It helped a lot. And it was like the real experience on how to do a design program. And everyone who's in the architecture field knows like what to do, how to do a design program is very difficult, and to how to make it efficient, especially for special needs patients. And it was a really difficult learning how to, that you have to have clusters of the bid words based on the condition, and not to put the different ages in the same cluster, and in our approach also not to put the same gender in the same cluster.
Sure.
So we have to separate, and how to also design for people who may have an extreme kind of condition based on circumstance, that you have to have a place to isolate them so they can have the proper treatment. Also learning what kind of materials. So glass doors was a no-no, like circular corners or curvy corners are no. A lot of factors in the design that could trigger their anxiety and confusion was something that we have to pay attention to quite well. So it was like that was like really a good learning experience
Yeah.
about how to design for special needs.
And I appreciate that, getting that insight. And what I'm hearing, and please correct me if I'm restating this improperly, but in the work that you're doing, as far as designing, before you get to the actual, let's actually create the structure, design, or whatnot, you're doing a whole lot of qualitative work. You're doing interviews, you're talking to people, you're getting the interested parties and those who will be impacted and affected by the design. You're getting input from them in this really qualitative way before you get into the quantitative work of numbers and figures on feet and length and how you're going to create everything. So it's really a mixture of qualitative research and quantitative expertise all kind of blending together to create a design that meets the needs of whoever the client is. And in this case was special needs folks that have psychiatric diagnoses. So am I capturing that story correctly?
Yeah, and I would say like it's just dealing with every user of a building or a community as a client respectfully, whether they are special needs. And later on, we did the same when I designed with my students like expansion for transitional homeless facility in Baltimore. And it was the same thing. We worked closely with the 32 individuals in a transitional facility, and we went to them every week. We designed like we had like workshops with them. We asked them. We designed how their condition from just coming out of the street to become fully assimilated and integrated into a family life, which is a cycle that could take years actually
Sure.
in those transition facilities. So that kind of like not the cookie cutter kind of approach of like let's design a shelter or something above their head that will assume would work. It never works, and
Right.
this is why we see a lot of like urban pollution or urban plight that happen when people get the housing and then they started to change how things are. They close areas or they expand areas, and they started to have their own persona into the design and the space reconfiguration. This is because they've never been integrated into the process from the beginning.
Yeah, I love that example, and the significance of that, and the importance of inviting everyone into the process, giving them not just a seat at the table to hear what's going on, but a voice in the design process, so that this is really integrated, and it meets the needs. Sounds it's a little bit more intensive on the front end. It takes a little bit more time, but the end product is such a better product when you do it that way. So I appreciate you explaining that, because I think there are different ways of designing and building. Some of it is the expert just knows best and goes and does it. And then there are the ways in which you described, in which the expert does know, but may not know best. So that's why you bring in the voices of others who are particularly the end users, so that they have a say in how it's going to evolve and grow and eventually be designed and implemented. So brilliant. I love that. Um, so moving on then in your career, you moved on from working in hospital settings and working in designing some of the psychiatric facilities that you talked about. Where did you move on to next then at that point? Was it you mentioned Germany, and I know San Antonio is part of your story. Where do you go from when you leave Cairo for the first time? Where do you end up next?
Well, I left Cairo after almost like 9 years in the practice, and I was just finishing my PhD. I just defended and then flew to College Station, just a fraction of my
In Texas.
neighborhood in
Yeah.
size in
Yes.
Texas.
So people
So it's
may
a
not understand, College Station is kind of out in the middle of East nowhere, Texas. From Cairo,
yeah.
very very giant
very hustle. Yeah.
to,
So
yeah,
it's yeah.
that's a big
It
change.
was closer to his. It's a huge change,
Yeah,
and
yeah, it's kind
it
of close
took
to
me a
Houston.
while.
Yeah, yeah. You got the big city
So I
Houston
remember.
nearby. Wow,
Yeah.
that's a big
So I
jump.
started. True, yeah. But also, I didn't say that in my PhD, I took a totally different approach
Yeah, yeah.
as I was started to teach in a city outside Cairo. So I took the train and then I started seeing communities and the urban plight and the quasi urban communities. And that was the topic of my research, what it takes to have a framework to invest in those communities and
Mm,
then to have a framework for their participation
yeah, yeah,
and what it takes to uplift socioeconomic and built
nice.
environment conditions.
Yeah.
And then when I came to College Station, I started to echo my approach and looked at the colonias in Texas,
Mm,
in colonias particularly around Laredo and with County Laredo and
yeah.
area, and
And
some of them were
I was just going to say,
yeah.
for
Go
those
ahead.
who may not be familiar with that term, a colonias in Texas, it's often a border community. It's not necessarily required to be a border community, but it's often a border community. May not have, wastewater treatment or water. It's very lower on the socioeconomics, so they really don't have some of the resources that you may find in many other places, clean tap water to drink or, wastewater functioning very well, if at all. So these are very poor areas. And again, often, like you said, Laredo, near the U.S. Mexico border. So just want to make sure people understood where you were working in. It was a very kind of a really poor, underserved community.
True, and always there was a misperception about them. The demographics were at the time I was doing my research. I studied a master, like a second master, at University Texas A&M University in College Station, but all my work was remotely at the colonias. So I community is great. They were very helpful, very supportive, wonderful people,
Yeah, yeah.
and always being looked at as the immigrants. But actually,
Mm-hmm.
97% at the time were actually U.S. citizens or green
Yeah,
card holders.
yeah.
All research shown that, but it was early in the process that, and the communities by the census or by the official kind of classification as a community. They are unincorporated
Mm-hmm.
areas, so meaning that they are not part of a city territorial jurisdiction, meaning that they're not covered by services or any kind of emergency response system, 911, all these kind of luxury services we enjoy in
Yeah, we
cities.
take for granted,
Um,
right?
we take for granted. Yeah, but I found out part of what they are doing in the process of transformation and the advocacy that happened from many of them, many residents across the border. And the border, these communities not only in Texas, they are along the entire border from the East Coast to California. So, but they are more concentrated in Texas, as probably some people know.
Yeah.
And I worked closely with the community because I had to do surveys, and I took an anthropological ethnographic approach that I seek the help from the local experts, the informants, and they were like my connection to the community. Got a ton of volunteers from people there to help disseminate the surveys as well. Um, so that was like really the transformation also to moving from this career of designing communities like El Gouna, like people visit as resort also, or special needs health facilities, to the looking at more of the urban scale, both in my PhD and in my master's at in the colonies at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And this is where I started also teaching more of urban planning um, and urban design and communities and working with communities.
Nice. Well, it's important work that I'm sure you helped move colonias along back then, and there's still work to be done in those areas, undoubtedly. So, but yeah, that I can see that shift going from a master planned resort like community on the Red Sea to working on the U.S. Mexico border in a colonia. That again is also a big shift in career path and the type of work that would be done in those communities. So that's a big move for you. So go ahead.
It was, I would say, a big shift, but also was more fulfilling.
Yes.
And it took me to move more to build on my PhD work and to focus more on affordable housing. And this is why when I finished my master's in Texas A&M, I moved to Baltimore, where I worked in an HBCU campus, Morgan State University. For people who don't know what the HBCU campuses, they are historical Black college and universities, and they started in 19th centuries as colleges for Black communities, give them access to higher ed. Then eventually, most of them has been transformed to 4 years and PhD also granting universities. So I worked there as a tenure track assistant professor of environmental design and did a great job with the students, majority of whom were actually from inner city Baltimore, and worked with fabulous colleagues. And we did that project with one of the transitional homeless facility in Baltimore. Then I moved to Texas. I moved to San Antonio.
Came
I
back.
got recruited for a position. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got recruited for a University of Texas San Antonio, met the department chair, and then I moved there for almost 7 years and did a great job on campus and with the community too.
Yeah. And this is the time frame then where obviously your friendship with Karen Bishop took off. She was a colleague of mine when I was at the San Antonio River Authority. And you did and want to dive into some of your work there in San Antonio, because you did a wide array of things, from working on the World Heritage Site there with San Antonio Missions. You did work for the San Antonio River Authority with Karen and water quality issues and low impact development and placemaking. You did some work with affordable housing issues, and so you really kind of were touching on a lot of different aspects of your profession there for that 7-year period in San Antonio. Can you tell us a little, some of the highlights of those different areas, because they're all fascinating to me, and I know I've seen the product of your work. I just didn't know you were working on it on some of the geospatial work that you were doing as well for the River Authority. I was very involved in that. I just didn't know you were on the outside consultant doing some of that work for us. So tell us about some of the fascinating things you did in San Antonio, because it really shows your breadth and width of the different things that you work on.
Yeah, I feel bad that we didn't cross paths in San Antonio.
Just missed each other. Just missed it.
Yeah, I know. So I did. I sit on a lot of advisory boards. I remember one of them was for access to parks, and it was led by one of the candidate for city. Either for a mayor or I don't remember, but there was some candidate going for a local office, and part of his campaign was to give the youth access to open spaces and green spaces and how we work out the hurdles. San Antonio was ranked, I believe, 56 or 53 among the cities with having access to public parks. There is Trust for Public Land is an organization that ranks cities based on their public access to open space and green spaces particularly. And I got to know a friend who eventually introduced me, Annalisa Peace. She actually, the friend who connected me.
She's great.
He connected me. Yeah. She's amazing.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, I should have her on the show. She connected
me with Karen. You should. She's amazing. Yeah. She is a big advocate for environmental
absolutely
and water quality. Yeah. So we get to know each other well. We're still friends to date. We meet sometimes on Zoom just to catch up.
Yeah.
And then she connected me to Karen and Stephen Graham and
Yeah,
everyone and
Steve Graham.
Sarah,
Yep.
and we got to chat, and they wanted to do a work with also with the state about the groundwater and the surface water, using the low impact development, which is an approach to use nature and plant and different techniques to design sites in lieu of so it can enhance the water infiltration to go into the aquifer, so it could help minimize the energy that we use to clean up the water again when we use it for potable water,
Yeah.
and to direct the water into the aquifer instead of going to the ditches like the typical kind of sewage
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
So there was kind of like also compromises between what the surface water treatment need, like the streams and the San Antonio River, versus the groundwater, and then which is going to be the aquifer and the recharge area, the Edward Aquifer, particularly, and then how we can clean up the water. So with some debates about do we need to put liners or we need to get rid of liners, and the approach that Sarah was San Antonio River Authority wanted is like we need no liners. So I have to work on the compromise of multiple iteration of site treatments and design of the site, and to make sure that water will be cleaned up
Right.
for both purposes.
And this is water being directed into a stormwater facility, as opposed to being so that it can be filtered naturally and eventually end up in the aquifer, as opposed to water being directed to a creek or waterway, where it will be kind of just flushed out of the community towards the Gulf Coast. We wanted to capture that water, that rainfall, particularly over the Edwards recharge zone, so that it can filter back into the aquifer, because that's also a main source of drinking water for people in the area. So is that a way to kind of restate what you were talking about as far as liners or not liners? It's in basins basically where we're directing water to filter back into the recharge zone. Is that correct?
Yeah, and the reason for that was to retain the water on site and to have the site redesigned in a way that retain the water but keep it with a slow kind of infiltration that usually take up to 48 hours through different planting and different
Right.
soil layers to make sure that it takes its time to be infiltrated properly, and then to do the design of those low impact development practices that fits the topography and the location and how we want the placemaking of the site to be attractive. And I remember when we started getting the water inspection data from SOS, the water facility, there was, and then from also the historically the data that were collected from Greater Edward Aquifer Alliance and San Antonio River Authority, found like there's a big violations of water quality in terms of the sites. So there's a lot of these kind of the recharge point that already have contamination around. So our approach was to use the GIS and to create like a geospatial model to prioritize those areas, to look at where the contamination is happening, and then to give recommendation if you want to put investment in redevelopment of the site. These are the areas that where you start with.
Yeah, and these are like large parking lot areas or development, apartment development or housing developments, commercial developments, all things that would, as you talk about, capturing water on the site. It's this development property. What do you do with the rainfall that falls on that property? How do you keep it there and manage it there in a healthy way, as opposed to allowing it to just run off that site and then become a stormwater problem for somebody else to deal with. So that was an important project that you were working on for the San Antonio and Bexar County area, given the significance of the aquifer and for drinking water purposes and endangered species that are there and all the other aspects of aquifer. For those who aren't familiar, that is a big deal in San Antonio. There were federal
Great.
lawsuits in the early 90s over the use of the aquifer that are still impacting how people in that area live and behave today. So that was a big project that you were a part of. So
Yeah,
I
and
don't know how we
as
didn't
far
meet
as you know,
because I was a part of that
I know.
on the communication side with other elected officials and folks. So I'm very familiar with your work. I just didn't know you were doing it. So
And as far as I know, today they have not like enforced like development kind of ratio to make sure that there is enough conservation of the land in areas specifically in the recharge zone. And there's a lot of advocacy
yeah,
happening around this area to make sure there's much more respect for protection of the recharge zone. It's
yeah.
very sensitive area, and we just gonna spend ton of energy to like clean up the water again.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
where Annalisa comes in and all of her advocacy work and all the
true.
great efforts she's been putting in for decades to fight those fights, to make sure that development happens, not to stop development, but to develop in a smarter way, in a better way. So,
Yeah.
um, you were also working in San Antonio, I believe, on another project that I had my hands on also and didn't know you had your hands on it, but it was the San Antonio Missions World Heritage Site, which is also just another fascinating connection that you and I have. We just never crossed paths. But can you tell us what you were doing with regards to that project as well? Because that is also another big deal for the San Antonio community. That World Heritage recognition for the 4 Spanish missions. Well, 5 when you include Wilson County as well. So
True, and there was this one was I didn't know like you were involved in any of this project. By the way, so I'm curious to hear your story about it
yeah,
too. Yeah, this was one of the best collaboration I've ever had. It was 3 of us, colleagues in the College of Architecture, and each one of us come from literally different world, academically, but also demographically. And we put together a proposal that we were told it's usually these type of top, it was like university competitive proposal that usually goes to science or engineering, and we neither was. So for anyone outside the US, architecture is not part of engineering in most of the US schools unless it is architectural engineering department, and we
yeah,
were not. So we had a historian and we had conservation and person, and she's from Italy, and the history person, she's born and raised in US, I believe in Texas, and me coming from all this different background with the geospatial kind of like the STEM tools. We put together this proposal, and we wanted to put the World Heritage Site, the 5 missions, including the very popular animal
mm-hmm.
mission, into the digital world, and we wanted to document the stories about each mission and the land developed around them to feed the communities of each mission, the suertes, which is the commercial land. We wanted to digitize those and to show the kind of spatiotemporal or the evolvement over time for these lands, and how the mission from Mexico and the pathway to each mission happen, and also the irrigation system, the acequias,
Ezekiel's,
and
yeah,
most of them are buried. Yeah, most
yeah,
of them are buried, and they're like there's no recognition. They are buried, but they still exist. Like
yeah,
they're so we found that a lot of them actually under existing neighborhood, residential
yeah,
neighborhoods. So
yeah,
we got the archives, and one of the historians, she traveled to Spain and Sevilla. She got a lot of archival data from Sevilla as part of this grant. Um, but it was a celebration. Like it's 3 women getting a grant that we were told that none in architecture get it, and it usually goes to science and engineering. I was like, oh, we get it. It's just easy. But yeah, but it was a big deal. Like it was, we were so happy and proud to get it. And then we had also student working with us, so it was like a very good team. Um, and we presented our work in a computer management conference in MIT, and we published a couple of papers out of it. The thing is that we now have like a digital format, like a mapping and digital format for where are the areas that need to be protected, and the zones around the mission that need to be protected, where the ASAKIs really are based on the archival data, and then when they were kind of established, because we tracked them from maps go back to 1733.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's such an important work that you were doing for protection. Was that done as part of the application process for the World Heritage recognition, or was that done after the recognition was already awarded by the UN?
We've done it just before the recognition,
Yeah.
but the recognition happened by the time we were publishing the paper.
Okay.
Because I remember we were just me and my students, we were presenting at the MIT conference, and that recognition happened like a month before. So we were able to take like a screen capture of the news and like this is what the value of this type of work means, because it's going to recognize the World Heritage Sites.
Yeah, so being done in tandem. Yeah, that was, and just to real briefly, my connection to all of that was through the restoration project of the Mission Reach, and how we were beginning in 2011 when Secretary Salazar was in San Antonio and kind of announced his interest in supporting San Antonio's desire to seek World Heritage recognition for the missions. He was there because of the restoration project. He was there to celebrate opening of the first phase of that project, and so I worked behind the scenes, helping to make sure that as that package was being put together, leading to the 2015 recognition, that we were connecting the ecosystem restoration along the river to the archaeological, historical, and cultural connections of the missions, because they were put there because of the river, and so I had a little bit of a role to play behind the scenes in making that connection between the river and the missions, and funded some of the photography work and some of the promotional work that helped along the way. So I had a small part to play, but it was an exciting project to be a part of.
This is thank you. This is like a lot of effort was there to help put all this application together. This was like a big deal.
Whole lot of people doing.
Long waited.
Yeah. So fantastic. Well, they got a good connection to Germany with that story, because the recognition happened in 2015 at a conference meeting in Germany, and let's transition to some of your work in Berlin. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on the time as well. I do want to hear about some of your more recent work in Berlin, and then we'll kind of get to the end here of the interview. But tell me a little bit about your work in Germany and in Berlin as well.
So I wanted always to practice my very long kind of like ambition of learning German. I learned German in high school, but I wanted to practice more. So I also wanted to apply for a Fulbright and to visit Germany. So I reached out to some connection through the Technical University of Berlin in Gouna to connect me with Technical University of Berlin in Berlin.
Nice.
So I got contact with Paul and Kristen Wellner, who's the Dean of the College of Engineering, and Johanna Siddiqui. She worked with her too. So we put together a proposal for a visit. It's called Fulbright Specialist Award, where we match each other. They put a proposal for what the collaboration is going to look like, and I put my proposal for the Fulbright US for what I need to do, what I'm looking up to do, and we put together like a joint course, urban design course, and it was like a short-term seminar or praxis seminar that we taught in January 2023. and it ended up being like a record high registration.
Nice.
And
Congratulations.
when I got it, yeah, it was like, I think we got like 28 students. I was told like usually it's half this number comes into the course. But the, the good news, the excellent news was that we got students, I stopped counting. I think we got students from like um, 15 or 16 countries, including some students who were just visiting TOB for just like one semester, and they heard about the course, and then they registered. And they come from like 8 majors. So not only the College of Engineering where the course was offered, but we got students from other departments from across campus.
Yeah.
The course was basically about also sustainable real estate and sustainable businesses making. And we had a case study of development that very popular in Milan, in Italy. It's called Portanova, and we wanted the students to have to re-envision the entire Portanova with sustainable business making in mind, and but sustainable real estate,
Yeah.
and without any unforeseen consequences of gentrification for the neighborhoods nearby. So it was three of us, Paul, Johanna, and myself, and Kristen visiting the course. So three of us were kind of like instructing the course, but also we ran several workshops and with the students, but also we had like different panels from experts in and outside Berlin. People from real estate and people from environmental advocacy and environmental law that looked at real estate from environmental perspective, and people outside Berlin who are actually working on the UN certification and documentation for sustainable real estate. So it was like really intense experience. So we worked with the students day long for that week praxis until 8 and 9 p.m. So it was like really heavy heavy course, but it was a
Yeah.
great success.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So you came full circle with your German. You got it. And what I meant to ask you this long ago in your story. Why German? Why Germany when you were back in high school? What was the attraction?
I have no idea
Yeah.
to date, and all my German friends keep keep being surprised that I tell them like German is easier than English, and I like the German language, and they keep saying like, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah." I think it's just the my mind from engineering works like in a pragmatic way. It's like what you read is what you write,
Yeah.
and this is what I like about the German. It doesn't have all the tricks and the French or the Spanish.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Well, Azza, I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you so much for joining me on the show, and really sorry we didn't get a chance to meet in San Antonio, but I'm glad we met now, and hopefully someday we can actually meet in person as well. But you just had this incredible career and this wonderful journey. Sustainable planning and urban planning and all the work that you've done for affordable housing, incredible work, and water quality work and protecting heritage sites. I mean, just really what an amazing career path, and undoubtedly more to come. So I look forward to following your career as you continue to do these amazing things. Go ahead.
I just
Oh,
want to say thank you. This is a great opportunity. Like you
yeah.
never think about reflecting about what you do, but this was like a great opportunity to do so.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I want to give you an opportunity now to direct the audience into action. We've talked about a wide variety of things, all have a connection to sustainability and resilience. Making the world a better place and for future generations to thrive as well as we can thrive in today's environment. So, what do you want people to do? What's your call to action? How can they support you in your work, or what do you want them to do in their own neighborhoods and communities? What should people do after listening to this or watching this episode?
Oh, okay. So that's a big responsibility, but I think it's, it all lies in in the comfort zone, everything that's within the comfort zone is usually eventually is going to be harmful to others. So uh, lowering your the thermostat and to save some energy is outside the comfort zone. Taking the transportation and scheduling your time around the transit system matters a lot. Rethinking about your next car, is it going to be the luxury car, is it going to be the more efficient car? All of these kind of responsible decisions matters. So we're not going to talk about like the little stuff like but the recycling or the no plastic bags, because I thought those we're done with those already. We should be at least.
Should be.
But major decision about the CO2 emission matters. We see every summer, oh, this was the hottest summer. This was this is the record high. Next year, it's the record high. It's the
Yeah.
record high. And it doesn't stop. So it will only stop and stop bothering every one of us when we take actions. So just work outside your comfort zone. It's not going to hurt. You're going to get used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Redefining what comfort is and maybe find a new comfort zone. But I like that idea of stretching beyond your comfort zone. That has a whole lot of metaphorical connections as well for me. So I appreciate that. So the last little bit, then let's transition into the hope for the future. We just talk about hard things sometimes, like record-breaking heat that repeats summer after summer after summer because of the climate crisis that we're in right now. These are hard subjects to talk about and difficult, and can generate anxiety and concern in people. So I like to end every episode speaking about hope, to give people some energy to go into action. Because if you're overwhelmed by the fears of the future, or your climate anxiety is too much, it's hard to go do something then. So we want to generate that hope so people can get into action. And looking at hope more from the perspective of how it's studied, not defined as a fluffy pink cloud emotion, but how is a mindset. Hope is something that we can train and cultivate in ourselves. And it's we have a vision for a better future. We have a plan of action that can help us get to that better future. And we have a sense of agency, that there's something I can do. I might not be able to do it by myself, and probably won't be able to do it by myself, but there's some steps that I can take to help get to this better future. So as I want to ask you 3 questions about your hopes, and would ask you not to think too long and hard about your answers. Just kind of go with what your first gut feeling is, or what your heart says. So the first question for you, Azza, is what's your vision for a better future? And it can be for you personally or professionally or for the world, but what's your vision for a better future?
Personally and professionally, it's the same. I think I just want to continue to do what I do and expand on inspiring, but also keep connecting with students. I do have, and I'm very thankful and blessed to have that kind of long-term relationship with former students, even from my time in Egypt. So for over now 28 years, I do have still now, we take different roles. So now they are friends and colleagues, and I got a lot of inspiration from them too. But I'm also having very close connection with students who just graduated, send me like pictures, just even a couple of weeks ago from Florida, saying that we are graduating this semester, and we're going to see you in a different capacity. So it's, I think the hope is to have them really take up the new rules and to help shape the world with sustainability and respect to different humans and diversity in mind. So that's really my hope, to continue to be there and to continue to see them thrive and spread positive vibes and be connected to others the way I hope that my connection to them to last.
Perfect. So the second question then, why is that your hope? Why is that important to you?
I think we're going to be better humans if we just like appreciate others and the environment. It's like, it's one earth, it's one planet. We're all equal on it. We don't even have to say that. We don't, like, it should be by default. So I'm like, why do we have to say what should be a priority, and like what's something that we should have like as no brainer? But it is a fact that not everyone think the same. So it's my role, and that's why I like my role as educator or as researcher, just to keep spreading these ideas and continue to connect with people based on those principles.
Perfect. So the last question for you then, Azza, is imagine the future you described. Where we don't have to say the no-brainer things that people already understand, that equity is and diversity is important, and we're all living and sharing this planet in a sustainable way. Imagine that future is happening right now. So how does that make you feel that you're living in that future right now?
Well, not to disappoint you, but
Yeah.
it's very difficult to see this happening
Yeah.
very soon, just because of what's going on in the world. It's just gonna be great if it's happening. But like reality is also, part of me is like, I'm a realistic person. It's not in the near future.
Yeah.
It depends on all of us just pushing the boundaries extremely far and extremely high, and pushing the ceilings high for everyone else who does not have the chance to have the chance. So
Yeah.
it just we need to keep the hope, but at the same time, I need to balance that with being realistic. That's not going to be the time where I'm living. It might be next generation.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, both the hope for the future and the practical reality of, and I share your perspective. I don't know that I'll be living in that future either, but it's the work that we're doing today that will help that future materialize. So thank you so much for sharing your hopes with me, and sharing your career journey, and all the amazing work that you've done. And I wish you all the best, because we need the world needs you to keep doing the work that you're doing to help it make it
Thank you
get it
so
to a better
much.
place. So
Thank you so much, Stephen. That was really great, and really appreciate the time and opportunity to share something I did. Hopefully, it's going to be valuable to others.
I'm sure it will be. So thank you very much, and we'll stay in touch. I look
Thank
forward
you.
to hopefully meeting you in person someday, Azza. All right.
Yeah, one day. Yeah. Take care.
Bye-bye. What an incredible journey we've just taken with Dr. Azza Kamal, urban planner, architect, educator, and global changemaker. In this episode, we explored how Dr. Kamal's upbringing in Cairo shaped her passion for architecture, how her early work on award-winning developments like El Gouna laid the foundation for a career, and how she has since devoted her expertise to advocating for affordable housing, sustainable urban planning, and community resilience. We heard how she's championing community engagement in underserved areas like the colonias of Texas, led innovative work on water quality and environmental justice in San Antonio, and helped preserve cultural heritage at the San Antonio Mission's World Heritage Site. And we learned how she brings all of this global experience and expertise spanning Egypt, Germany, and across the U.S. into the classroom to empower the next generation of urban leaders. On a personal note, I just want to share how meaningful this conversation was for me. While Dr. Kamal and I didn't know each other back then, we were both working in San Antonio on different aspects of the same big challenges. I saw firsthand the positive impact of her work, from stormwater quality to World Heritage preservation. I just didn't know who was behind some of that remarkable progress at the time. It's been an absolute honor to finally connect the dots and to celebrate the dedication and vision that Dr. Kamal brings to every project she touches. Her 25 years of experience in Florida, Maryland, Texas, Germany, and Egypt is more than just impressive to me. It's truly making the world a better place. Dr. Kamal's story is a call to action for all of us. Whether it's advocating for affordable housing in your city, volunteering on a local planning board, engaging your community in conversations about resilience, or simply supporting equitable and sustainable development, there's something each of us can do to shape a more just and livable future for all. If this story, today's episode with Dr. Kamal, if this moved you in any way, I would invite you to support Stories Sustain Us by subscribing, leaving me a review, sharing this episode with a friend or family member, or simply just following me on social media and clicking like on these posts. Every little bit helps amplify voices and stories that matter. So thank you for your support. And I hope you'll join me again on May 27th for a brand new episode of Stories Sustain Us. I'll be speaking with a visionary German architect currently living in France who co-founded a global nonprofit with his wife, who just happens to be part of one of the most iconic French families known for ocean exploration and protection. Together, they're working to return the world's oceans to abundance. It's a fascinating conversation about marine restoration, global collaboration, and the very real possibility of revitalizing ocean life by 2050. Catch the next episode of Stories Sustain Us on May 27th at storiessustainus.com, wherever you listen to podcasts, and on YouTube. Thank you so very much for being here with me today. Keep making the world a better place. One story, one action, one community at a time. Till next time, I'm Stephen Schauer. Please take care of yourself and each other. Take care.